the trouble you've started?
Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it.
Right! You tell them I'm coming! And hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio. All right. Thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
Hey, it's Celebrate Truth Radio. I'm your host, Robbie Davidson. Join with me. We got some serious going on. Here we go again, Nate.
Here we go.
This is number 3. We've had this for
time.
3. We've had this for 3 weeks in a row. So let's do it. Here we go. Let her play.
So then, you see, nobody ever knew. Nobody ever comes out.
We know where you are at all times. That's our business.
All right, welcome to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where you don't need to expect us. We're already here. And now it's time for Firing Lines with Douglas DITRH. So call in 347-688-2902.
Do not call that number.
That is 347-688-2902.
Yeah, do not. No, don't call.
Would like to discuss with Mr. Douglas DITRH. freedomslips.com, Revolution Radio, weaponized talk radio.
All righty, here we go. And that's
Okay,
it.
we're back.
There it is.
Back.
So we got
That's
this
a wrap.
extended intro with a different show name and a different number. This is number 3 in a row that we've done that, ain't it?
It's just a test.
Every time I try to get to you to talk about you, it all of a sudden goes into that. I got to wait. And now we go into my awesome co-host, Pastor Nate Wolfe. How's it going, Pastor Nate?
It's going very well, Robbie. Thank you. We have our house is all clear of sickness. Our last kid that was pretty sick the last few days, the medicine that he had from the doc finally kicked in, and so he was doing great today. So yeah, the house is like back to normal, and finishing up some remodeling on the studio tomorrow. So pretty excited about that.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, you're getting everything done with the new office.
Yeah, I gotta, before I just had, I had basically 2 walls, and the third wall was mostly a sliding glass door, and then the fourth didn't have a wall, so it was just wide open, basically a sunroom that I carved out a corner in. And what I'm going to do is have a fully enclosed with 2 doors, 2 French doors. We actually stole the doors from my daughter's bedroom. It had a regular door.
I was just about to say you stole the doors, and I was like,
"Where's this going?
Where's this going?"
No, she wanted an enclosed wall on the other side, so her brothers wouldn't keep coming through her room as a shortcut to get to the rest of the house. So we're making this a cheap, easy remodel, and it's going well. So.
Nice. Well, let's get right into it. We've got an awesome guest on tonight. We've got, I would say, the flat smacking extraordinaire. I mean, what do you say for this guest? I mean, he's done so much in the flat Earth community. Let's just bring him on. David Weiss, are you there?
I'm calling that other number and it's not answering. What's going on?
Do not call that number. Yeah, we've had a little technical issues for the last 3 weeks with, I guess, a different show intro that comes in there, but we just roll with it. We just have fun.
That show has pretty cool, scary music to start with. I mean, it is pretty cool. So
yeah.
But I'm almost out of the hot sauce, David. I've been eating the hot sauce a lot, man. I love it. It's good stuff.
Yeah, that's I've been getting a lot of people. It's about that time. Usually, a few weeks after I see a bunch of people, I start getting the calls.
You're like, hey, I'm running out, man. I'm jonesing.
I need more hot sauce. I need more.
More hot sauce, man.
I need it.
First First bottle's free. Second bottle's $500.
Yeah, when you see people shaking after they're done their first bottle, it's not a good sign,
Yeah.
right? They're just like,
I
I
knew
need
there was
more.
something. I knew there was something in that bottle because
What do
you
you
get the
put in that
shakes.
bottle? Is there a secret ingredient that you can maybe tell us?
No, it's a recipe that my father came up with when he lived down in the Caribbean, and it's basically mango-based hot sauce.
Yes.
Peppers, mango, all organic ingredients, apple cider vinegar, and I just kind of make it once a year and make as many bottles as I can, and then I kind of just give them away.
Do you think for 1 minute though, when your dad was actually coming up with that formula, he would ever think of how many people would be flat smacked with it?
No.
Literally,
I love it
that
'cause
sauce is
it's,
changing the world.
It's on the sweeter side. I love it. It's great.
It's a Caribbean style sweet. There's a lot of mango in there, so that's where the sweet comes from.
I'm digging it.
Mango. The guy love the mango. Well, David, hey, let's really get into it right at the beginning. Maybe just tell people that aren't familiar with who you are. Maybe get into your story, like even before you came to what you're most passionate about these days. Maybe you can just talk about your background that way.
Sure, I'll give you a quick background. I was just a normal guy. I had a normal corporate job and started realizing that the world wasn't what we thought it was, and not to the point I do today, but a friend of mine, Tim, and I, in the lunchroom, we would be talking about some conspiracies, simple stuff like the Federal Reserve not being a federal agency, and people would be listening, and each day, more and more people would gather around us in the lunchroom, and then one day, Tim said, hey, we have an opportunity to do a podcast out of a studio in New York City. And we started the Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole podcast, which was two truth tellers, me and Tim and I, and then our third co-host was a comedian who basically tried to turn everything into a joke. So it was kind of an interesting formula.
Nice.
Yeah, it was. So we did that weekly for 3 years, and there was times where people, we were jumping over the table wanting to kill each other. It was quite dramatic, but it was a lot of fun. And we looked into all of the conspiracies, all of the deceptions, from the big event in New York and Connecticut and Boston and everything else. And then people started sending me flat Earth stuff, and I wouldn't watch a 1 minute video. It's ridiculous.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, and so then I was, I would ban people from our social media for being so stupid as to even suggest that I watch a flat Earth video. And then I was speaking with Sophia Smallstorm, who was a researcher that did one of the first 9/11 movies, and a bunch of other research, amazing researcher. And I was saying to her, I said, it is amazing the amount of deception in this world. We were talking about some events that happened on the news, which didn't really happen. And she goes, oh, David, it's worse than that. I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, I think the earth might be flat. And I was like, are you kidding me? And I just finished banning some people from our social media. And she goes, here, watch this. She sent me Mark Sargent's Clues,
Nice.
Eric DeBay's 200 Proofs. She goes, watch these videos. So this is the same story that many of us have. And so I just said, okay, that's it. I'm going to prove the globe. And I started looking for globe proofs. And what is it? 5 years later, here I am on Revolution Radio on the Celebrate Truth channel. And I'm the host of the Flat Earth podcast. And my life has changed in 1,000 ways for the better since then.
Yes.
Yeah, I can imagine with all the conspiracies that you were, talking about, this one came off to be the most absurd. Like when you first heard about it, you're just like, what? I'm not even going to look into that.
I thought it was going to discredit all of the work that we had done. And, during the course of Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, different major events would come up. I don't even want to say it, but, the one in Connecticut, and they didn't even want me to bring it up on the podcast. We had no restrictions, but like, don't bring that up. That's crazy. And I couldn't help it. I was like, no, there was so much to bring up. And it literally turned into we did a weekly spot on it. It just became so big. And then when Flat Earth came up, they're like, everyone's like, no, no, no. And I couldn't keep quiet. And I just started bringing it up each week. And then it basically started to dominate the show. And it essentially blew up the whole show. And after 3 years, we ended the show, which was good. It was, it ran.
What happened after the show? Like, would you guys get into it a little bit more, or like, did it cause a lot of division at the very beginning when you actually started talking about Flat Earth on air?
We get into it during the show, and like when we'd have these arguments on the show, it was good radio. People liked it.
Yeah,
people liked it. Like when we first, this is the best. We got invited to do this show. The producers, this was a real studio. It was called Stand Up New York Labs. It was out of the Stand Up New York Comedy Club, and they had a podcast network. They still have it. It's still running, and we said we're going to do a conspiracy show, and they're like, all right. They had no idea what we're going to talk about. And my co-host had no idea. Like the first episode, nobody's planning. And I was like, oh, I'm planning. We're doing it on 9/11. Mm-hmm. And I laid out 9/11 like these people had never heard. By the time we were done, all of the producers and the owners, they're like sticking their heads through the window, looking into the, people are coming into the studio. I didn't realize the crowd that was gathering. And when we were done, there was silence. Everyone's like, what the heck just happened?
Mic drop, yeah.
Right. It was like, what just happened? These people are, and we're in Manhattan. These people didn't know that there was anything wrong with 9/11. And then Mike, the co-host comedian, he just breaks the silence. He goes, we're titling this show 9/11 is Dave's Baby.
Okay.
Nice.
And that was our first show.
Wow.
So that was really kind of the beginning of my public truth telling.
Gotcha. Yeah. Because I think it came from a respected researcher and investigator, Sophia Smallstorm, was the one that kind of brought it up with you. Maybe you can kind of explain how that kind of came about.
Yeah. So Sophia and I met we were researching the Connecticut event. And I had actually reached out to her when Wolfgang Halbert, if I'm saying that right, Wolfgang Halbert, he's a school safety investigator, got on the scene, and I actually
How big I think is his last he's a big dude, big dude.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy, and it's the amount of trolls going after him because he was over the target, it was just crazy. And so I became friends with Sophia, and we were working on a lot of stuff together in the background on some other conspiracies, and then we kind of just became friends. So we were talking literally daily back then. We still talk, at least a couple times a week, but she had been getting the same thing I was. People were reaching out, and that's kind of what I do. Right now I reach out to show hosts that have not heard about Flat Earth or just mentioned it. And that's how they got me, that's how they got her, so we're all on board. And that's kind of, I'm just really thinking about it for the first time here. That's kind of what gave me my idea for spreading it, because it happened to me. So now I'm making it happen to other people.
Makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. And I think a lot of, researchers, truthers that have, large followings are starting to kind of question the fact of so much censorship with this topic, among others, but this topic is being lumped in with those topics.
Robbie, this one is one of those things where, throughout your life, you come across truths, interests, whatever it is. You just come across things, and, people, get into something, and then a year later, a month later, a week later, they're bored. They're out of it.
Yeah, they're onto something different.
They're onto something different. When you come across Flat Earth, when you see it, it's there every day.
It's like the Matrix. It's like seeing the Matrix.
No, it is seeing the Matrix.
Yeah.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Because when you see it, you cannot unsee it.
Correct.
You cannot forget it, and you cannot be bored with it.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. And it's a constant reminder because you're standing on it the whole time. You can't even run away from it.
And everywhere, I say, when you had the first conference in Raleigh, I came up with the idea of doing a billboard, and because billboards, I have some history with billboard advertising, and I was like, I just love billboards, and that was a good way to reach the people that weren't in the Flat Earth circle.
That was great.
Nice.
Yeah. So the thing I say about billboards is, like, if you have a restaurant, in Canada or whatever, wherever you are, or a small business, there's only probably 10, 15, 100, maybe 2 billboards that are good for your business. If it's a restaurant, it's only the billboards in that area. If it's a little town restaurant or whatever, because a billboard in Texas isn't going to do you any good in Canada or Hawaii. But every single billboard, bar none, is a perfect billboard for flat Earth.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed going to the billboard in Denver. Denver was my first FEIC, and that was awesome. You had the drones out there. That was fun stuff, man. A lot of people were honking on that highway, like constantly, too.
Yeah, that was a good location. We were looking for a location like that for Texas, but we really couldn't find anything that was really worth it economically. So you
had flying billboards. You got flying billboards instead. So it was a step up.
Definitely interesting.
Yeah, definitely. What I find really interesting, David, is that you're doing this podcast. You're researching all these different conspiracies, and I'm sure you dabbled into, the World Reserve. You got into the elite, the Bohemian Grove. I mean, there was nothing that you really didn't touch, correct? You got into it all.
There was nothing.
So my question to you, and you talk about this a lot on your podcast, is all that time, even seeing the evil nature and even the Luciferian nature of the elite and what they were into, at that point, you still hadn't come to the conclusion that there was a God. Maybe you can explain how Flat Earth did it for you, but all these other conspiracies didn't. Even though you knew there was an evil and there was most likely a Satan, you still couldn't believe in that God.
Yeah, that's interesting. I really haven't. I never really looked at it from that point of view. I grew up not believing in any. We didn't really practice much religion in my family, but I didn't believe in God. I just believed evolution, the Big Bang. I believe what we were taught. This is it. We're random. It's amazing that we're here, but that's it. I mean, when I look back at it now, it's like, that's crazy. But when I started looking into flat Earth, why couldn't I see it? Why couldn't I see that there was a creator? And that's really a good question. It has to do with the mind control that they have over us since birth. So when I realized that the Earth isn't a spinning ball and that it is flat and that it is created, that was it. I was like, it's created. There's a creator. There's no doubt. It's not a question.
Correct.
It's not a question. It's a fact. When you understand where you don't live, we kind of understand where we do live, but I'd say we more understand where we don't live, and we don't live on a random ball that exploded from nothing.
Yeah.
So that that changes. It's interesting, and not that I've always been a good person. I think, maybe not perfect, but as close as anybody could get.
Yeah, I would definitely probably go out on a limb and say you definitely weren't perfect. That's for sure. None of us are.
But much nicer than a lot of people.
Yeah.
But when you realize somebody's watching you always behave a little better. So it was it's just so interesting how it naturally just came to me about the creator. It's just it makes life better, I guess.
Do you find it profound in a sense, and I know that you hold to this as well, that you don't just believe in a creator, you believe in a creator that is close, intimate, personal, because he's right above, or he created us as kind of the pinnacle of everything else. So does that kind of change your perspectives on the creator? Because we're just talking right now about a creator.
Robbie, and Nate, this one of the things that kept me away from believing any religion is, like, when I looked at Christianity, those crazy people think the earth is really young and that the creator is just in the clouds above. I mean, how can that be? And it's the spinning ball deception that keeps us away from the creator. That This lie, the globe lie, is the most amazing. You know, the I think it was Paul Harvey said the most amazing trick the devil ever did was to convince you that he doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I've changed it to the most amazing thing the devil. I don't know if I actually changed it, but I thought of it. The most amazing thing
It's been
that the
said.
devil ever did
Yeah.
was convince you
That he doesn't exist.
God doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the most amazing thing that the devil ever did was the globe lie.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So much to
Yeah.
it. It's so well
Yeah.
thought out. It is mind control.
Have you stopped to think that there might even be something bigger? I'm going to go out and say, there's something even bigger than the deception of flat Earth. I'm wrapping my head around it right now, trying to figure out what it could be, but there's something even bigger than that. Like, this is not the absolute big, we always talk about the biggest lie ever. It's huge. It's a mega massive one. And it's almost going to take us, multiple generations just to, digest it. But I still think there's something even bigger that's coming. That's even bigger than that.
Do you not know what it is, or are you
don't.
hinting at
No,
something?
I don't. I don't. But I think that this is kind of like we're in the steps right now. Evolution was the first to kind of go where most people started kind of waking up to that and stuff. Then you got the flat Earth thing. Probably in a few more generations, there's probably going to be something else that's just going to. You got to prepare for it. I mean, you know how big of a thing it was when you came to the whole flat Earth thing. I mean, unless you were into conspiracies, I mean, it really floored you. I mean, I was open and willing to look at anything. This rocked me. I mean, it rocked me to the core. Coming to the flat Earth
rocked
revelation.
me to the core, but there are bigger parts of flat Earth that I don't even discuss publicly yet because most of the flat Earth community isn't ready for it.
Yeah. Well,
if you look at Alex, conspiracy music guru's friend Mike, the doctor, his work on unveiling a Titan. Have you seen his stuff?
I've watched a little bit of his stuff. You've recommended it before.
That sounds very familiar.
Here's the problem. If you watch he has a series that about 8 videos right now. And if you watch just the first one, you'd be like, I don't need to watch the other ones. Then you watch the second one, you're like, that's interesting, and you don't need to watch the other ones. Then you watch the third one, and you're going to scratch your head and go, let me just check out the fourth one. And if you get through the fourth one, you're done. Yeah. It's like you see it, and you can't unsee it.
Yeah. Is that the giant?
Yeah,
giant
that's
thing?
just.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, I watched that. Rick Hummer put me onto that.
I
He was like,
remember
"Dude, you got to watch this video, this
Yeah.
series of videos." He's like, "They're not very long."
My YouTube, well, he's up to 8 videos now, and it's gotten 1,000 times more better than those first 3 videos.
Yeah.
There's a playlist on my YouTube channel, which is DITRH, the initials for Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, called "Unveiling a Titan." Okay. It'll take you, a half a day to get through the videos. Not even, just half a day with, coming back and forth to the videos. Your mind will be blown. It's over.
Yeah, there's some huge stuff. I mean, the mud floods, that was massive. There was a lot of things that happened. I mean, I think even there's no forest on flat Earth. That video, I think that was in 2016, early 2016 when that hit. And that really rocked a bunch of the flat Earth community as well, too. It just seemed like after flat Earth, there was all these other things that started coming up. You know what I mean? Mud floods and the trees. It just makes you think. I'm not saying I agree with them all, but it does make you stop and go, interesting.
Well, if you look at the work that people are doing on the mud floods, I don't know if there was a flood worldwide, that it was everywhere, but there is mud flood evidence, undeniable evidence, in almost every place I've looked.
Okay, well, let's talk about that, because you bring up a good point. Like you just said that you don't know if there was a worldwide flood, but I'll ask you this question: when it comes to Genesis and the creation account, do you agree with the firmament, the waters dividing the waters from the waters? Do you personally, David, agree with that an account or no?
I could never understand on a spinning ball how there could be a worldwide flood. It made no sense to me. On a flat Earth, it absolutely makes sense. Yeah. So if they opened up the floodgates, that's an interesting term, and the water comes in, that I don't know how it could not be everywhere.
Correct.
Although there could be areas where maybe it didn't come in as high in certain places.
Yeah, but for 40 days, I mean, wasn't it Nate? 40 days straight.
40 days and 40 nights.
Correct.
It rained straight. And what blew me away, even as a preacher for 20-something years, was, when you get into the flood account in Genesis, the second and third chapters that deal with that, like chapter 7, 6, 7, 8, when you realize it says that at the highest point it says that the waters were 15 cubits higher
Correct.
than the
In the
highest mountain.
Correct.
Than the highest mountains. It says that in the Bible.
And what's 15 cubit again? What was the
well,
calculation?
a cubit was the measurement from a typical person's elbow to a man's elbow to the end of his fingers.
Correct.
About 18 inches or so for the average. So, it was tens of feet over the highest mountain.
Correct.
And I always believed in a worldwide flood, but it wasn't until a few months before I got flat smacked, Robbie, by your video, The Global Lie, that I was doing that study on the flood, and I came across that specific scripture that said that the waters were 15 cubits higher than the tallest mountain. I was like, what? Even that blew me away.
What's interesting, too, about the Genesis account is there's 3 water accounts, right? You got the windows up top, you've got the fountains of the deep, and you've got the rain from the clouds, because right afterwards, when it talks about it stopping, it says the rain stopped from the clouds, the windows shut, and the fountains, so there's 3 water sources. It wasn't just raining. Yeah.
So let's talk about those water sources for a second. And this makes a lot of sense to me. There's primary water, there's secondary water. We're told that the world, the heliocentric world, that we have evaporation, condensation, and precipitation. That's how the water cycle works. And but it never made sense to me how come there's waterfalls at the tops of mountains? In Hawaii, there's water coming from the tops of the mountains.
Yeah.
How much rain are they getting up there? But that water is coming from primary water. Do you guys know what primary water is?
Correct. Like you're talking about the different water. And again, the Bible talks about that as well. It talks about different water levels, like the fountains of the deep, these type of levels of water.
Right. So the fountains of the deep, that's primary water. So there's water below us, and it's coming up through fissures. That's how in the middle of a desert, you see an oasis where there's a pond. We have an island off of New York, off of Long Island Sound here, called Block Island. It's a small little island in the middle of salt water, but right on the shoreline, which is just across the road, is a pond. A giant pond of fresh water. I'm like, how does that fresh water get there? And it's coming from underneath. It's primary water. It's not runoff from anywhere.
Correct.
So that that's what Gaddafi found underneath the desert there when he was pumping it all over Africa.
Yeah. They lie about they lie about that, David. They lie even about oil, right? Dinosaur fossils. Give me a break. You know what I mean?
But we're in this high pressure system. God separated the waters from the waters. That never made sense to me until flat Earth, of course. But when we have low pressure, that's when we get a storm. That's when we have low pressure, and that's when the water is allowed in. So when you have a hurricane, we have rivers of water coming out. I don't know if you guys have ever been in a real hurricane, but there's rivers of water coming out of the sky. And to me, that's because of the low pressure is allowing that water to come into the system. So when God had the great flood, maybe it was just he lowered the pressure and let the waters in. Open the door, the windows, and
I always sit there and say that firmament is there. If it wasn't, it's there for our protection. If it wasn't there, we'd all be dead. There's massive waters above us and below us. There was water before anything was created. If you look at the crazy thing is when you look at Genesis, before anything, there's just water. It's just existing. Have you ever looked at that, Nate? The fact that water, he's just hovering on the water in Genesis. Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah, it says the Spirit of God moved over the face of the waters.
Yeah.
It's the same word where it says, the face of the earth. In fact, back to the flood in Genesis, it says that the water covered the whole face of the earth. So, that takes on a whole new meaning, as David said, when you're thinking globe versus flat plane, that's a whole new story,
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing.
And we know that just from geometry, from geometry, you don't have, globes, balls don't have a face. Yeah, you could paint a face on a volleyball like Wilson, from the movie Castaway, but in geometry itself, a globe, a ball, a sphere does not have a face. And that always bothered me, as a believing Christian who, I believed in the young earth creation, but I was very indoctrinated to the whole globe thing and everything else. And I'm like, well, how did he flood the whole, a whole globe? How does that work? Well, he's God. He can do anything. Yeah, sure. But let's be honest. I always tell people, Yes, there are some scriptures in the Bible that have metaphor, allegory, that sort of thing. We're not denying those things exist, but find any type of that kind of language in Genesis, you can't, because it's a factual, orderly account of what was created, which day it was created on, and what the purpose or the purposes were for those items being created. And so it just kills me when people want to say, well, yeah, the Bible says the moon gives her light, but, it's really just reflecting the light of the sun. And I'm like, let's go back to Genesis 1. He created the two great lights, not the one great light and then the great reflector. Give me a break.
Yeah.
Come on, people.
Yeah, well, like I said, I mean, Satan's done an incredible job using scientism to turn people away and actually remove God, And again, when they remove God, they really have no account. They really have no rules. They're not accountable to anyone, right? And I mean, David was bringing this up at the beginning, talking about that things change when all of a sudden there is a creator, there is someone looking down. Things change in a big way, because before, with evolution and you're a random accident, just an animal, all these things are such lies. The fact that they'll say we're animals, that alone is another lie. But one by one, when you look at the Bible, you see how Satan has completely twisted, perverted, distorted, lied continually. He's the father of all lies.
Yeah, for sure.
Let me ask you guys a question. And when I'm doing interviews with people that don't believe in flat Earth, and laying out all the information I know, I will always get the question, when I keep smacking down their globe gotcha proofs, people get frustrated and they throw their hands up. They come back inevitably with, why the lie? Why all this effort? Why would they do that? Why the lie? Now, we are not them. We can't even identify who the majority of the them are or they are.
Sure.
But we know that there are secret societies that are trying to run this world.
I think it's insulting for people to hear for money, for power. I mean, it is true, Dave, but I hear this all the time and it kind of annoys me a little bit, but I understand why people say it. They'll be like, why did they lie? Well, for control, for power. And there's so many other ways to do it, to get control and power. But a lot of people will say, for money. These things don't make sense to anyone's brain, including ours. They really shouldn't. That's why we're getting into the spiritual, because the only way this really makes sense to lie to every generation continually over thousands of years is something bigger, much bigger than even men.
So finishing my question was, we're not them, so I can't say for sure, but I honestly 100% believe that it is to hide God.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see any other possibility.
Yeah.
Are you guys on that same page?
100%.
That's the main reason. That's
100%.
why.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
The entire thing, the entire evolution narrative is to completely remove God. Forget even flat Earth. Even beforehand, that entire construct is completely to eradicate any type of special significance when it comes to the creation of humans. Period. Right?
When I looked into Christianity as a kid, I was like, "What is this all about?" One of the first things I heard was that of the young Earth, and I'm like, "Well, that's impossible, dinosaurs," and I was done.
Yeah.
It's like I went to the Flat Earth Society to check out flat Earth. I was like, oh, I'm out of here. This is stupid.
Yeah. That's why I fell away as well, was science, 100%. I'm just like, well, I remember my dad, of all people, saying, look, man, Noah's Ark is ridiculous. You can't have animals. Scientifically, it'd be impossible. So he was bringing up all the scientific reasons why Genesis would be false, right? And my dad wasn't being nasty about it. He was just a very educated man in the science degrees and all this. So really, it came down to what it was like that destroyed God in my mind growing up was science, was scientism, right? So 100%, David. There's no doubt in my mind when it comes to this. But we can't just be on an interview and say, why would they lie? Why would they lie? We almost need to go a little bit deeper, longer, and then come up to the very end saying they're hiding God. Because when you just tell people they're hiding God, it throws them for a loop. I mean, can you imagine if someone said that to you, David, 5 years ago, and you said, wait a minute, come on, you guys are idiots. What do you mean flat Earth? Why would they lie? And they said to hide God. You would have just brushed it off. You know what I mean? So it has to be almost like a longer, gradual buildup to you're right. That's the only logical explanation. Money, power, greed, none of that makes any sense. There are so much more ways to make money than try to do something. And besides, men are not sophisticated and smart enough to pull this off over millennium. They just aren't. They just cannot, they can't have a cohesive agreement. I mean, you know how it is. Don't you even find it fascinating how the Illuminati and how all these secret societies, even though they work independently, they all are together working for a common purpose without fighting with each other? That's a spiritual thing. There's a spiritual force behind it that's governing all of them, just like when it comes down to the lie of the globe.
And where I started with the Federal Reserve, that is another of the major deceptions. It's not for money, because the people that are doing this are the ones that create the money.
Correct.
You know, people say
They can
NASA gets $60 million a day now. No, they don't. NASA needs probably, I don't know, $50,000 a week max.
Yeah.
They
But they can just print it. They can just print it though. Like really,
they don't
technically,
even need to print it. They just type it
Type
into
it.
a
That's,
computer.
you're right.
Like if NASA wanted to fake another space launch, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna make 5,000 different companies make us one part each, so they could all be part of it." That's what they did with the moon landing hoax. And they have to pay these companies. These are real companies, so they're going to order all these parts, and then they're going to type. They're just going to type in, okay, send this number, this many ones and zeros to this company.
Absolutely,
and it's coming from nowhere. There's no accounting. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, so money doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but the $60 million a day is real because they're taking it from us.
Correct.
Yes.
The money makes sense when you're controlled by it.
That's
the
point.
When you're controlled by it.
Yeah, because we're losing it, so it's coming from us. Exactly.
Yeah, and again, I totally agree. I just hear it all the time when people are really trying to figure this out, because that's the biggest question that everyone has when they first hear about this. Even 2 years into this, you start thinking about, you're like, but why would they lie? How many people have to be involved? And the answer to the question is there's not very many people that really are knowledgeable on the entire big picture. Period. Yeah. That's my understanding on it. There'd be very few on it, because again, the more people that are in on it, the less chance you have to conceal that and keep that long term. That's just my understanding and what my opinion is on it. But really, when you look at it as a spiritual thing, you got to remember, he studied mankind. He understands the way we operate. And again, to work on something. And again, I will say that it's not just about the lie itself, David. It's about to prepare us for the big one that's coming into this world. Like, I think it's it's a means to an end. It's not the end itself. This is a means, get the world ready and adapted so that they will believe the great deception, because we're warned in the Bible that there is going to be one massive grand deception that's going to come into the world, and it's going to deceive the whole world. Now, the question is, what in the world could that be that would affect everyone?
Yeah.
I don't know. Rob Skiba posted a Netflix video that's coming out January 1st called The Messiah.
You know what? I looked into it, and it's all about really, and here's the thing. It's funny too, because, and we're going to get into that. I'm going to be talking about Islam and Muslims, but Muslims, if you look at the name of the actual character in Messiah, it's actually the deceiver, the Antichrist. So what was interesting is they kind of screwed up, because it was Muslims that figured it out that there's going to be a big twist at the end of this series where it's not going to be Jesus or the real true Christ. It's going to be the Antichrist. But what's interesting about Islam, they even believe that Jesus is going to defeat the Antichrist. That Muslims believe that Jesus is coming back again. So the reason I'm saying that is there's something very significant about this Jesus character. And what we say, David, is what's intriguing is the Bible goes so far as to say that he is the creator. Maybe Nate, you can bring up the verse that it talks about, because like we can talk about creator and God.
Yeah.
And people stop in their tracks when you start saying, well, what are you talking about? We're saying that the Bible
I shared in my FEIC presentation, that was from Colossians chapter 1, where it basically says that there was nothing that was created that wasn't created through Jesus Christ. So, Colossians chapter 1 is the chapter on that. It's amazing because it really just comes right out, and it doesn't pull any punches, and it says that everything was created through him.
Yeah, by him, for him, through him,
by him, through him, all things.
All things, yeah.
Yeah, so that's really a powerful thing when you consider that. It says in verse 17, he is before all things, and by him all things consist. So, it talks about that, him as creator. So it's interesting that they actually believe, that he's coming back and that he's going to do that battle, and
yeah. Like that's what I always say, when we're talking on the show is, regardless, wherever you feel about Jesus, the fact of the matter is he's incredibly significant because he touches all religions. But the reason I bring that up, David, it was a good segue into what I was going to bring up anyways. Don't you find it interesting that when you look around at the religious flat earthers, have you noticed the fact that I would say by a massive majority, 99.9% of them are Christian? Why do you think that is? Because you can say, well, no, I think there's other religions out there. Okay, for example, Islam is the second world's biggest religion. If you're talking about the three big ones, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. It is the second biggest in the entire world. And yet there are no massive YouTube channels. There's not massive numbers that are coming out. And I'll tell you the reason why. Because in the Quran, if you're going to take the Quran literal, which they would have to do, you're going to find out it is false. It actually says in the Quran, in Surah 1886, that the sun sets in a pool of mud. That's why this is never going to touch Islam. I mean, Mark Sargent always talks about, Muslims, and it touches all the religions. But the only problem is the only book that's consistent, if you take it literal, is the Bible. And that's why you're seeing exactly what you're seeing. That's not why there's thousands of Muslims that are waking up to flat earth in their Quran. Now, they might wake up to flat earth and realize that the Bible, and they're looking into the Torah and they're looking into the New Testament and they're seeing how it all comes together. But the fact of the matter is, I always kind of scratch my head at the beginning. I'm like, wait a minute, why aren't there like thousands and thousands of Muslims or massive, Muslim channels talking about flat earth? And the reason is because this is one way that I think God is starting to show the markers of what the true book was all along. Because the Bible cannot find any fault when it comes to flat earth. Even secular researchers that have no hand and they don't even care about religion or the Bible are finding in their scientific research, it's all lining up. Like Jaron talks about atmospheric dome, right? He always talks about, all these things. So it's interesting how it's kind of gelling all together. And even though someone might not be religious or believe in the Bible, they're all going one direction. Have you ever found that kind of in your studies, David?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. I don't disagree with anything you just said. It's just a lot to take in for me.
Oh yeah, we don't. I mean, I'm saying it more for the audience because again, we have a pretty strong religious or Christian audience and stuff. And again, it's something that is interesting to think about, right? And I find it amazing. And I always tell people like, who cares? Who cares about this topic? Well, someone like you that was an atheist your whole life, and then instantly in a split second, all of a sudden you become a agnostic at the very least, or a believer or a theist. I mean, the difference. You know what a theist is, correct, David?
You can define it for me. It's
well,
somebody that believes in
a God for the most part, a one rather than like polyistic and pantheistic. There's different words for these type of things. But what I find interesting in the whole flat Earth thing, it gels biblically speaking. I mean, like there's other people that will say, well, I have problems with the Bible and stuff like this, but they'll totally agree and align with anything to do with the creation in the Bible. That's a whole other matter. But I find it very intriguing how these are the people that are being woken up, and everyone's research is kind of coming together, is gelling together. I've not seen a brand new, flat Earth religion with a new God and a new book and all that being created.
Bob mentioned he wanted to bring up a flat Earth religion. He thought of it as an idea. Very interesting concept.
It's interesting. I'm surprised it hasn't been done. I would never advocate it myself personally. I'm just surprised that it's not being done. What I'm surprised about is people aren't waking up every day in the flat Earth community and going, wait a minute. And I said this at the conference, and that was kind of the big thing, was finding the creator through creation. How come in the flat Earth community, people that really, aren't religious, don't believe in the Bible, whatever, why aren't they intrigued? Like, aren't they like, wait a minute, there must be a true creator. If we're all truthers, we have to agree that spiritually there can only be one truth. It's like saying that the globe is true and then the flat Earth is true at the same time. We know that's false. So is it true in the spiritual sense that there's only one true way?
Yeah, Robbie, and I don't want to get too deep into what my beliefs are. I like keeping that to myself.
Sure. Just talk in general for other people then. Not you personally. Just what do you think? It's kind of like, what have you noticed? What have you heard? It's like we'll leave you out of it personally. Just kind of in general sense, what have you noticed? I mean, you've been in this now for quite a while, David, and it's like looking around. What have you noticed?
Well, what I've noticed is there's a lot of hardcore Christians in flat Earth, and I'm not saying this is the majority. I'm saying there's a lot.
Sure.
That those are the people that have kept me away from Christianity.
Okay.
Those people are, I would say, are pushing. Once you see flat Earth. I'm using a flat Earth as an analogy to finding God. Once you see flat Earth, there can be a bunch of nasty flat earthers that can say all sorts of stuff, but they're not going to push you away because you already saw it.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
Okay. So you have people that have seen God, have found Jesus, and there's other people that can come and say horrible things, but they're not going to push them away.
Okay.
They're not going to push them away because they've already seen it. It's the people that haven't seen flat Earth, the
Sure.
people that haven't seen, Jesus. Isn't it more important to bring people so they can, like Owen Benjamin has brought so many people to see God. I have brought so many people to from there is no creator, I am a
Absolutely.
product of evolution,
Yep.
to, oh my God, there is a creator.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That's
Yeah,
where I am.
yeah.
That is my calling. I am to stay at this first step, because if you don't get on the first step, you can't see any of the other steps. And that's what I do. So
we already talked about that. We wouldn't get into what we won't get into you personally, David. It was more of, looking at everything. What have you noticed? Now, you mentioned there's been a lot of people turned off by Christianity based on the actions of Christians. And that's horrible. That's just like people being turned off by flat earth, by, flat earth extremism. I totally agree. That's a huge problem. That's why we're talking about this, David, is like, it's kind of like, what's the answer? Because again, we're not the ones that are going to be sitting there bashing people or smacking them over the head and saying, repent and you're going to go to hell and all these type of things. We're saying that, look, something extraordinary is happening. We all understand that supernaturally something massive is happening. We're spiritually being woken up. Would you think that you were just so smart that you came to this?
What do you mean?
Like, do you think that something supernatural woke you up to flat earth, or you just think that you were smarter than the average person, or you had studied enough about the Illuminati that you were, ripe for it? Like my understanding is that we can't really take credit for waking up to the flat earth, the globe deception.
I think God showed me.
Okay, good. Yeah.
God, gave me eyes to see.
There you go.
There
Okay.
you go. Awesome.
And
Cool.
but Robbie, there's people like you, Pastor Nate and Robbie, and Rand Paul from Flat Out Elected, and I'm trying to think who else, but just off the top of my head, and Rob Skiba. You four are you never push people away. You don't
Sure.
care where they
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
You're just putting out the information, and hey, check it out. And if you don't check it out, that's fine.
Yeah,
Whatever. And that works. That
Okay,
works.
cool. Yeah, and I agree with you. I agree with
But
you.
I
Nobody.
remember-
It's just
I
like
remember
forcing.
during my research,
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Hello.
you guys got garbled out a second.
There you
Oh,
go.
sorry.
There
So
you
I
go.
totally agree. I totally agree. It's like if you ram flat earth down someone's throat, I mean, they're not going to be receptive. So I agree. It's the same type of thing. We have to be, gentle. We have to be loving. I mean, especially be there. If someone has questions. I mean, that's the thing you're saying about Skiba and myself and Nate and, and there's other people in the community that, aren't, that gentle. You know what I mean? They're really nasty. And again, nasty people exist. We'd agree that in any type of belief system, there's nasty people.
In my research on all, before I came across Flat Earth, I would be listening to all sorts of shows and guys, this is fantastic. I'm getting all this information. And then they'd mention Jesus. I'm like, that's it. And I rip out the whole page,
Totally.
everything that I liked, and I throw it in the garbage and I tune out and I was gone. I was gone.
Wow.
That's who I was.
Totally.
Because I'm like, I have to discredit because this guy's is a religious fool.
Yeah.
This guy's an idiot.
Yeah.
He's being fooled.
Yeah.
And that's where it was. So that was me. And guess what? There's a lot of me out there because of this ball deception, because it started so early.
Yes.
There's more of me out there than there's not of me out there.
Yeah.
So I am extremely careful to maintain that position where they can get on that first step.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I understand. I mean, like looking at just what you've been doing, you totally have a calling, and I wouldn't ask you to change a bit because honestly, that bridge, that gap of what you do going on with audiences that have no clue, and you kind of piece it together. It's almost like flat earth, right? And you're right. I mean, someone comes to it, they're on their own journey at that point, right? It's not up to us to decide for people what journey to take. We're there to give them the information and say, do you want to, accept it or not? Do you want to look at it or not? So I think you do a phenomenal job with that. So I don't think it would be advantageous for you to change anything or have someone pressure you to think that you got to do anything different. I think you're doing a phenomenal job. But I think you realize, and you mentioned it as well, that this was a calling. You were woke up and you're on a mission,
Yes.
but that mission was granted to you and purposed by God, which is incredible. So we're just excited. There's a lot of people, I can tell you, myself, Nate, Rob, others that are really praying for you in the sense of going, you're on a big mission, for protection, for blessing, because I mean, how many people are being affected through the words that are being spoken through you?
Absolutely.
Robbie, I have no fear that when I get called in front of the Father for my, like, how did you do in this lifetime? I have no fear. I'm fine. I'm in the right place. I'm where I'm supposed to be, and I appreciate all the prayers and
yeah, absolutely.
Keep coming. So
no, we definitely will. I mean, and with sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I just listened to today. I'm a subscriber to Veritas Radio with Mel Fabregas. I love the guy.
Yeah.
And season 11 just started today, and at the beginning of every season, he has.
Can you do his voice?
Neil,
Can you do an impression? Can you try to do his voice?
I cannot.
Okay.
I
Right. I thought I would ask.
He has Neil Kramer on, who's an amazing researcher, and he talked about God, and I thought about it today, and he always talks about God and how that we're here. One of the things he said right at the beginning was that we're here to seek truth and then to share that truth with others, and when you and then when your time comes, if that's what you did, if you squandered that time we have here by not looking for truth, then you're not gonna go to the next level or whatever it is. Exactly how he said it. I just recommend that everybody listen to it. But the two things I want to say about it: one, Veritas Radio, the first hour is on YouTube. I think it's on YouTube the first week, or it comes out next week. But try to listen to that. But I thought about it. If I had heard this guy say this exact speech 6 years ago, before I heard about Flat Earth, I would have tuned right out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
One of the things, Robbie, you were talking about, different callings. I had a great time in Denver. I thought Denver FEIC was amazing. And I've got to tell you, I felt before Dallas, I felt like there was something special about Dallas, right? And not just because I knew, I had already known after talking with you, what plans you had, but I just had a spiritual feeling about the conference. I looked at the speakers, I looked at all the different topics, and I was just like, man, it just seemed like there was just the roster of people just complemented, the truth so well, and everything kind of fell into place. It just seemed like a very power-packed, series of talks. And so I think that was wonderful. And it's hard to do something like that. Let's be honest. It's an international conference. It's not billed as a Christian conference, although obviously you're a Christian. Many of the people there are Christians. But I felt like there was a lot of unity present, and I think that a lot of that unity had to do with, look, we're all here to share truth, right? And I felt like it was a powerful event. I mean, I don't know if you guys felt that way, but for me, I was just like, wow, hands down, Dallas was my favorite.
Yeah.
I've been going through all of the presentations because I missed 3/4 of them while I was there.
Yeah.
You do.
And I'm loving them all.
Yeah.
One of my most amazing moments there. What Nathan Roberts was it?
Nathan Reynolds. Nathan
Nathan Reynolds. Sorry.
The closer. My closer for 2019.
Yeah. So I didn't see his presentation, and I heard some people's reactions to it. A lot of people loved it, and a lot of people it seemed over the top and whatever. And so I had a prejudged opinion of it.
Sure.
And after the award ceremony, I saw him, and I was like, I knew who he was just because I'd seen his picture. I really knew nothing about the guy, and he came up to me and said, "Hey, it's because of you that I became a flat earther." Wow! Right? He saw something that he saw my videos or whatever it was, and I'm like, "All right, well, thanks." A lot of people said that, and that was really a good feeling. It kind of justifies the work I've been doing. But then I watched his presentation after the conference, and it blew me away.
Yeah.
And the fact that he became a flat earther because of something I did, just based practically showing me the scorecard, because I do all of the stuff and I know that it's affecting. I'm hoping that it's affecting people.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I said to God before the conference, show me, that I'm making a difference. And I can't tell you how many people came up to me and showed me the scorecard.
Dude, you had, and I know it's not about awards, but you won four, and there was only 20.
3.5.
Yeah, I know. Well, Jaren's part of one, but honestly, you were named in 4 awards. I don't think anyone. Yeah. I mean, that's something. That's a bar to be set. I'll tell you.
Well, that's David. What you were seeing was you were witnessing confirmations. I had some of those too. It was great, and for me, the most I guess rewarding thing, if you could call it rewarding. After my talk, I went back to my booth, because I had a booth there. I had some of my books and a few other friends' books, Chad Taylor and Andy Denny. And I had some people come to me, and I had a young guy, that said, hey, I haven't been a believer, but I need to get to know the Creator, and he came over and talked to me, and that was awesome, because this was a young millennial dude, he was probably in his early 30s or whatever, and that was exciting. I had a couple of different conversations like that. And then when I got back home, the first week after FEIC, I got several emails along the same line, so I think you'll continue to get, confirmations, and some of them I got in person at FEIC. Others, they shot me an email or messaged me on Facebook. They were at the conference or they were watching the live stream. And I didn't even know they existed until they reached out and shared that with me. So those are really cool. It kind of gives you fuel for your fire and helps you to keep cruising on.
Yeah, I just, people say, David, why do you do this? And why? I don't understand how you could not do this when you see the world that we're in. If you have children, if you care, if you have anyone that's living in this world, why would you not want to expose this deception? And I mean, our lives are being stolen from us. It's unreal. It's bigger than most flat earthers realize.
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
deception.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
They're stealing everything about us, and they're leaving us in this little empty shell with nothing.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
Hold that thought.
We'll talk about that when we come back.
Exposing the lies every Saturday here on Revolution Radio. Stay tuned. We'll be back after these messages.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Hello, all you good-looking people out there in Revolution Radio. This is Mario. I invite you to join me Thursdays at 6 o'clock for This, That, and the Other. It's a show about you, it's a show about me, but ultimately it's a show where we try to have a little bit of fun. We discuss important topics, and we do our best to be apolitical. So I invite you, put on your favorite pair of comfy sweats, your smoking jacket, and grab a beverage of your choice, and join me Thursday evenings at 6 o'clock for This, That, and the Other on Revolution Radio.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
Hello, Karl Marx here. Look at my wonderful hair. Notice how I sweep it back.
Carl?
I call it the 360 sweep. Beard, sideburns, and the magnificent coif.
Carl!
What? What is this?
You're on the radio. They can't see you.
Oh, yeah, I get confused. Want to learn more about the Marxist agenda and other important stuff? Listen to The Ultimate Remedy with L.B. Bork, Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern, right here on Revolution Radio.
This is Barbara DeLong, host of Nightlight Radio, inviting you to join me on a cosmic journey, exploring a metaphysical montage of spiritual material, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between, including spiritual readings for those who seek enlightenment. Let Nightlight provide you with equal measure of light, love and laughter, insight, wisdom, and inspiration. Monday nights, 10 to 12 p.m. Eastern, right here on Studio B, Revolution Radio at FreedomSlips.com.
All right, thanks for listening while we take that short break here at Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
Hey, welcome back to Celebrate Truth. This is hour 2. Our guest tonight is David Weiss. And we were talking in the first hour about so much. And near the end, we got into how much this is affecting people. This is literally life-changing. This is not just world-changing. This is life-changing. David, do you ever stop and think about exactly when these people walk up to you? I'm sure you get all different types of people, but really when they're looking you in the eyes, they're saying, honestly, thanks for what you do. Like, isn't that the most amazing feeling?
I want to say it's not the reason I do it, but it is validation for what I do. I'm doing this selfishly for me,
sure,
for my kids. But just, during the break in the chat, 2 people in the chat said, one of them came to the conference because of me being on Owen. And another person said, me, Jerry, and Mark Sargent helped wake them up. And it is nice to know. I always reference It's a Wonderful Life, the Christmas movie, and how the Clarence the Angel shows him the difference that he made in the world. And literally when I said, I want that Clarence moment. I want that, It's a Wonderful Life moment. I got it at the conference. And
nice.
And it's nice to know that it's working. So sure. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I just did another interview with Chris Jericho that's coming out the first week in January.
Nice.
And I think it was really good. I did a show the other day. I don't remember where it was. God, I don't even remember. But I'm getting so much feedback from it. It was it was that My Alien Life podcast.
Okay.
And these guys believe in aliens and the space program and everything. And I started out by telling them I'm not taking away their aliens or their secret space program. I'm just explaining it a little better because it makes so much more sense on a flat Earth.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of a difficult one for me. It was really the idea that there was no such thing as space is what we've been taught. And really that we were under a dome. Those were the 2 things that really blew my mind. But I think the alien thing, especially in the UFO circles, I mean, that's going to be a tough pill to swallow, Well, but again, it just changes. It shifts. I know you've explained this. You can explain it again.
Yeah, no. People say aliens and extraterrestrials, 2 different things. Most people in that secret space program world, aliens and extraterrestrials are the same thing to them. They're people from other planets. Well, they're people from across the plane. That's all.
I got a question for you, though. Okay, this is a question for you personally. I don't think you'll have a problem with this. Now, have you ever expanded on that? Why would that make sense for these other terrestrial beings from on the other side of the plane to come in and mess around with us? Why wouldn't they communicate to us, tell us? I mean, obviously you've heard the biblical explanation of what most Christians believe is the answer for aliens, correct?
What is it?
Is that they're the fallen ones, that they're basically demonic. I mean, they're the other ones that are told all throughout the Bible that they're here to be enemy with God, but also with his people, right? So they're here to confuse us, to lie to us, all these things.
So
but
that's not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
That stuff is probably, I can't prove it.
Oh, so you believe in other creations, like other humans?
No, I believe that there's not even other humans. There's just humans from the extraterrestrials. That
so you're saying, in other words, you would expand the typical flat Earth
past
model.
Past Antarctica is what I think. Past the ring,
Robbie. Maybe not even past Antarctica.
Okay.
Maybe there's swaths of ocean out there that are we're not allowed to go in. There's parts of it out there that we haven't explored.
I'm following you. But then people are being abducted. People are actually going through real, experiences. And I mean, people are having record experiences all over the world of this phenomenon happening.
That's aliens. That again, I'm not even getting into that part.
Okay.
I'm just talking about that, the elite view themselves as they're better than us.
Superhuman. Superhuman.
So let's just call them a runaway civilization.
Oh,
and maybe
okay. Yeah, I
maybe
hear you.
they have lands that we don't have access.
Fair enough. And I agree with that. Sure. But we were talking about aliens.
In my opinion, extraterrestrials. No, aliens, that's a separate thing.
Okay, so when someone asks you, you're on a podcast and they say, okay, but what about, we've done all this research, this stuff's happening. What are aliens, David? If they ask you.
They're if you ask me, I have no proof, but they're demons. They're fallen angels.
Okay.
Yes.
I have no.
All right.
That is the only explanation I can come up with. I have zero proof of it. So
sure, I understand what you're saying. Yeah. But again, out of all the
belief, yeah.
My point is,
that's an informed opinion based on your observation, your research, discussions with other people. So yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to give that as just my informed opinion.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I mean, all I'm just trying to narrow it down and saying of all the reasonable explanations, looking at it from a very secular point of view, even just looking at it, you're kind of like, how many options do I really have that really make sense in my brain? Like the fact that we're not on a spinning ball flying through space. In the same way, what logically makes sense going on here with aliens? So I think you're kind of bringing that up.
Yeah.
Robbie,
what do you think the wandering stars are, the planet, and that we see in the sky?
Well, I mean, we're told, I mean, that's a whole other discussion. We can get into that with Nate. He's done a lot of research on it as well. But really, I mean, what we're looking at is, in one way, everything that's created in the sky are lights, right? You've gone to great length telling people that we have no clue. They're lights in the sky. That's what we're told. But then also when you get into the stars and you get into the wandering stars, I mean, if you look at extra biblical texts like Enoch, you definitely get told they actually went against what they were told to do, and literally they're going to have a punishment, kind of like hell, or there's a punishment.
Yeah, it says
they've got a punishment.
It says that they will be judged.
They will be judged.
It's interesting because you don't judge an inanimate object,
like a rock. You don't judge a rock.
Yeah.
So there is a sentient, like they're a being of some sort. Again, the Bible just talks about it that way. Again, what exactly? I really don't know. I mean, we'd have to almost do a panel on this.
Hold on. So without getting too specific, the wandering stars, in your opinion, are
I think they're
fallen angels. Is that,
I believe
a different class. I'd say they're even a different class.
Yeah. So you have different classes of angels, right? You have you have a couple of different classes of angels that are said to be around the throne. You got the seraphim and these. Then you have what's called the messenger angels, Gabriel and these types that have, the archangels, the cherubim, the seraphim. So I believe that this is just my opinion based on the different studies of both scripture and then also some of the extra biblical texts, the book of Enoch and whatever else. I believe that those particular stars could very well be and are likely some type of a separate class of angels. and they happen to be, their big characteristic is they happen to be light, right? Because their purpose is to do what? Because even in Genesis 1, it doesn't say the stars are angels, but in Genesis 1, it says the sun, moon, and the stars do a couple of things. They give light, and they're for signs, seasons, days, and years. So I think that they're a special class, and that they disobeyed their courses. They had a job to do. They disobeyed that, and it says in the book of Enoch that, I believe it's chapter 7 of First Enoch. I could be wrong on that, but it says that they went out of their courses, and it says that they will be judged. So it's quite an interesting study, and I'm with David on this. I don't have the smoking gun proof that proves that these are angels or these are this. I'm just sharing. That's my best.
You answered my question. I didn't have the right word. So you believe that they are angelic in some form, and that they're disobeying God.
Yeah, I would believe that they're in some way, I think they're different than Gabriel,
Correct.
But then again, even with the angels, like the messengers, like angels, who the Bible also calls ministering spirits, they minister to men. They even ministered to Jesus in the garden. So I think that, there are different classes, and some we know more about than others, right? Because there's details about some of the seraphim that are around the throne of God, and their wings and their eyes and different things like that. But one thing to remember is that many of the angels, the messenger class of angels that came to earth and visited men, prophets, different patriarchs of families, that sort of thing, they were able to take on human form. And so the question in my mind then is, what is exactly their form when they're not human? Obviously, they're a spiritual type of being. But even with that, we don't have, it's interesting, like some of these, video games or a comic book series, I remember being a kid. I don't know if you guys were into this stuff, but when I was a kid, you'd buy the booklet that goes with it, and it's got all the pictures of all the, actors or all the people or whatever it is. And it has all these, facts and sheets and details on all of them and diagrams, and here's what they do. And, the Bible isn't like that. It doesn't tell us every detail that we'd like to know, but it tells us what we need to know, for the purposes of the message that God is, putting forth. But it's such an interesting topic. I mean, I think probably Rob Skiba is on the same, wavelength as Robbie and I, that there's some type of sentient being. I believe I heard him use that word.
Here's another interesting thing to consider. He like numbered like the grains of sand, he numbered certain things, but he gave each star a different name. You only name things that have some sort of sentence. You know what I mean? We name animals, so again, anything that has life. So it has some sort of life ability to it when he actually would give each one a specific name, not just stars. And that's it. He said, I gave each one a different name because they differ in glory. They differ in definition.
How do you, so when you look at astrology, that how your life is affected about where these wandering stars were when you were born, how do you tie that all together?
Ooh, there's a deep one
really
getting into.
Question.
I mean, there's obviously there's astronomy and there's astrology. Now, I know that a lot of people are saying, "Oh, there's no problem with astrology." All I know though is the Bible goes to great lengths to warn against it. And saying, "Do not,
because
dabble in it."
It's a form of what the Bible would call divination. Okay, where you're trying to go outside of the boundaries of the information that God has provided for His creation. So divination could be, trying to contact spirits, demons, get information about stuff.
I think it's very real, but it's very dark. And again, when you tap into it, he warns you. He says there's going to be consequences. It's not like it can't be true. There's truth there, but again, it's very dangerous truth, like a Ouija board. Think
about it. It is without, and I'm not saying people are doing this consciously. Some are, but the vast majority aren't. But think about this. There's warnings in the Old Testament, right? Israel was told specifically, he didn't just say, this is a bad idea and other people are doing it. He said, do not. In Deuteronomy 18 and other chapters, he discusses, and it's specifically prohibited to worship the stars. And there was actually a warning against that. So when you think about it, when people are I think there's a difference, guys. Okay, there is a difference because we know that in Genesis 1, it says for signs, seasons, days, and years. So there are some things that happen in our, what we would call our night sky, right, that actually are from God. But then again, there's a misuse of that. And so how do we delineate all of that? We don't have a book that outlines all that, but basically, as Robbie said, there's a warning against it because who are you going to follow? Are you going to follow the creator, right? Or are you going to follow potentially some fallen stars, some fallen entities, and that might try to mess with you. So.
And another point, David, is don't you find it intriguing how even science is bringing us back to you are stardust, stars, right? Aleister Crowley talked about every man and every woman is a star. So if you understand the star connection, you're seeing this luring to come to the stars, where you can get your knowledge, where you can get your insight, where you look at Yahweh all throughout the Bible, he warns and says, listen, do not do as this is done. There's danger there. So I'm saying there's probably real truth in there. There's real knowledge. Like the Illuminati doesn't just walk around because they're stupid. They're actually getting illuminated to certain knowledge. It's a very dangerous knowledge, and it comes with a cost. So he's just warning his people. He's saying, look, you obviously have the choice. You could do it or not. He's saying, please do not do it. It's a command, so you can choose to obey him or rebel.
It fits as well with the book of First Enoch, where it talks about the watchers, that took for themselves wives. What does it say? It says that they taught their wives knowledge of certain things.
Yes.
Now, the knowledge that they taught was real. It wasn't fake stuff. It was real, legit stuff. But what was the problem?
One was art of war. One was astrology. One was the moon. One was the sun.
Yeah. Yeah, and so here's the thing. It was knowledge that they had. Why did angels need to have the kind of knowledge of the stars and all of that? Well, because they're serving the Father in those capacities in some ways, right? They travel through the heavens, right? But that wasn't for us to know. But so the angels gave them hidden or secret knowledge.
Yeah.
And so when you look at the occult, and you discuss esoteric or secret knowledge, some of it is, knowledge that man has gained, I believe, and it goes all the way back to the fallen angels.
Correct.
So again, it comes down to where are you getting your information, right? And let me just say this: I was raised, and preached in a very conservative religious group for years. I will tell you that a lot of times we'd get to certain scriptures that talk about, demons and spiritual stuff. We would kind of shy away from that, almost like, nah, that's not really a thing. We don't have to worry about that. That's not a real thing. But what I came to believe, and what I believe now, is that the reason why there's warnings in scripture to stay away from so much stuff is because it is real, not because it's fairy tale. Yeah. It's evil, but it's real.
Yeah, what's intriguing too, also when he was talking about when the fallen ones were teaching mankind certain arts, they were teaching them the cutting of the root, right, for different things. They were teaching them like the stars. There was one angel that was just teaching the secrets of the moon. But here's where it will really blow your mind, David. Maybe throw this back in your head because it's still. I don't know where to go on this one. There was one angel dedicated to teach the secret of the clouds. To this day, and I brought this up with Skiba and many others, and again, I've never really started on this study, but there was something so specific, something so secretive when it comes to even the clouds, because one angel was in charge of teaching the secret of the clouds. It's just kind of, that's off on the side. But yeah, the whole thing. Are
you trying to get me to talk about my latest thoughts on clouds?
Let's do it. Well, I want to also branch off the whole spiritual thing. I think we've really talked about it. I think we have the same understanding. It's fascinating. I think to conclude the whole spiritual end of this discussion is really, as truthers, this is the truth. There can only be one true creator. The question is, who is he? Who is it? And I think it's advantageous for anyone, wherever you are. It makes logical sense to be a lot more fascinated with the creator than the creation itself. Now, the creation teaches us of the creator, but to go your life 5, 10, 20 years, not really, really trying to find out, because there can only be one truth. As truthers, we're already there. We already understand that principle. We're not postmodern thinking that whatever you believe is right for you and what's right for you, me. If I believe it's a globe for me, but for you it's flat. We're both right. I mean, that's complete crazy nonsense that is being taught in universities.
Ridiculous.
Now. It is. It's crazy, and it's widespread everywhere. Beliefs. So it's like, well, you believe that, I'll believe that. The fact of the matter was, Pilate himself said, "What is truth?" Have you ever stopped to think about the definition? If someone asked you, David, it's like, what is truth? That's a hard question to answer. Yeah. People will say, well, it's the opposite of a lie. But Pilate asked. And again, there's only one person ever saying I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And it was Jesus. And the question is he telling the truth or not? But if he is telling the truth, I'm telling you, not just your whole world will change when it comes to creation, everything we're talking about, from the stars, from everything, eschatology, what's to come, all that stuff. So I just urge people, I don't try to beat them over the head, try to, convert them. I just say, look, isn't that fascinating that you have one person here standing up above all of them, and something must be going on? Let me take time and research into him and see what happens. See what happens. If a person devotes even half the energy that a diehard flat earther would do on their search for the creator, they're going to find him. Because that flat earthers are diehard, man. They're like 120% all the way. You are like 180,000%, every day, 24/7 almost, right? So what I'm saying is, if you know deep in your heart, you are actually taking that amount of that time to really search it out for you. Don't listen to anyone, kind of like what we say as flat earthers, right? We say, don't listen to me. Go do your own research. Go and search him out for yourself, because it says in the Bible, if you search for me, you will find me.
Yeah, that's what I shared at FEIC, and I really do believe that. That's why I stressed, it has to be each person's own belief, right? I can't force someone to believe, but I can encourage them to seek it out. And the reason why I was stressing that at FEIC in my part was because I believe that scripture from Jeremiah that you're referencing, Robbie, is a promise. I think it's a promise from the Creator. He says, "You will seek me, and you will find me when you seek me with your whole heart." And so that's what I try to encourage people to do, is just say, have you really sought him out with your heart? Have you asked him to reveal himself to you? Because I personally believe he is a good God. He's not just the creator of an amazing world, but I really believe he's a good God, and he wants to have a relationship. And so that's why I try to encourage people, to be diligent in that. But yeah, Robbie and I, as David mentioned, we don't try to force anyone. The Bible says to speak the truth, but it says speak the truth in love. And I think one of the big problems is we have people, and I don't know, David, I'd like to get your opinion on this. Speaking the truth in love, we have a lot of people that are on one side or the other of that. And maybe that was what you were referring to when you said hardcore Christians. I mean, you can clarify that if I'm misreading that, but I would suspect that you probably experience a lot of, quote, Christians who were pushing hard on truth, but weren't showing a lot of love. They weren't doing it for the right motivations. They weren't, coming across as loving. I'm curious to see what's your take on that?
I don't know if they, someone that comes across hard, they might have the proper motivation, just not the proper technique.
The delivery.
Approach.
Approach.
It's horrifying. It's horrifying what some of them do. And they just tell you facts. You're going to hell if you don't do this now. And it's just like, I don't want to hear any of that. I know where I am. I have my relationship with God, and that's it. Okay, so I'm listening. I'm hearing. I'm learning. Awesome. I'm not an idiot. Okay, I get it. I see it. Right. That's great. So that and when people say, they tell me, people that don't even know me tell me things that they know about me, which they have no idea who I am, what I believe. They don't know anything. So, it's what you guys are doing is great. Just keep doing it.
Cool. Let's get real quick before I forget though. Let's get into the clouds, because I'm fascinated now with your latest research, because honestly it segued perfectly, because I'm just fascinated all this time that there's a fallen angel dedicated to teach mankind about the secret of the clouds. And I'm like, what in the world is going on with these things?
I did not know that. And that's interesting that you said that.
It's very true. It's been a thing that's been with me for seriously the last 4 years. I brought it with how many people? I've just never really zeroed in on it. So let's talk clouds, because what's your latest findings?
You're familiar with Dr. Emoto's work, right?
Who?
Dr. Emoto.
No.
He did the thing where he freezes water after treating it a certain way. Like he'll yell at water and then freeze.
Is it the rice guy?
So that type of thing. But he does water like, he expresses love to it, and then it creates these beautiful flowers in its geometry when you take these microscopic pictures of it. And water has memory. We know that water has memory. They're also saying that water can hold, like a drop of water can hold terabytes of information, right? So the water, what water is a hoax. Also, they're lying to us about what water is. Our bodies are what? How much water?
90%, 85 or something? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge number. And so, take all the water. Everyone, even people that die of gunshot wounds, die of dehydration. That's why you die, because of dehydration. 99.9% of death is because of dehydration. So when you lose all your water, you're dead. Water is life.
Yeah, that's why they stick you with an IV as well, so they can give you all kinds of medication.
So water has memory. Water is life. So we're here, physical beings on this earth, on God's earth. And what's above us, Robbie and Nate? Well, we have heaven, the non-physical beings above us. Yeah. So you look at a big, beautiful cumulus cloud. It's like morphing. It's got sharp edges to it. It's got a defined edge. So just view them just for hypothetically as those are angels. The clouds are angelic, whatever class of angel you want to call them. Think about this. Our world needs water. Water needs water in certain places at certain times. And we're led to believe that just random chances of moving clouds and cold pressure and low pressure, that the water just falls where it needs to be. Or is it being intelligently delivered to where it needs to be? Okay. So these cloud angels, okay, these angelic, these clouds have intelligence. And if you think about it, they're water. Cloud is 99.99% water. And so that there's intelligence in there. And so
dude, I'm telling you, it might be on something, because like I said, there was a fallen angel, a Nephilim, like honestly sitting there in the midst, sitting there teaching mankind the secret of the clouds. Like I look, like one of them was to teach the art of war and to build actually warfare, like to build swords and stuff. Like he was teaching them the iron works and stuff. The other one was to make up and stuff. It was just really interesting. But there's one dedicated, I think there was one for the moon, one for the sun, one for the stars. And then there's this one that just throws you off. And you're like, the secret of the clouds? What?
So now let's look at what's going on with the spraying of our skies. And
here we go.
I knew that had to be in there somewhere.
Here we go.
Nobody knows. We don't really know. Is it for weather? Hang on. The fact that they're telling us that they're doing it for weather control, maybe it has something to do with it. I think that's just they're misinforming us. That there's so many videos of, I've looked into chemtrails longer than anything. I've been looking at chemtrails for 15 years or more.
Wow.
And let's just stop for a second. One sec though. You said, the weather modification. The one issue I have with that, especially under a Christian worldview, is the fact that the Bible teaches that basically God's the one that basically operates the weather, right? I mean, to say that man can override that.
They're trying to override it.
I agree there. Right. Yep, they're trying to warp it.
Yeah, so there's so many videos, and I've seen it myself, where that's not an airplane spraying that. We don't know what it is spraying it. They're definitely coming out of some airplanes, but that could just be to disguise the ones that are not airplanes. The ones that we can't explain. So whatever it is, I'm not saying what's spraying it. Maybe it is airplanes. Maybe they're holograms. Maybe they're orbs. There's so many things.
Well, even Owen will say they're trying to hide stuff that's up in the sky because there's signs up there, right? There's certain things that are happening.
Exactly.
But think about this. When you have really good-looking, beautiful cumulus clouds, when they start spraying, those clouds dissolve into a slurry. Have you seen that? Have you watched that happen?
No.
Okay, so you have let's say there's no spraying going on, which is very rare these days, and you have a big, defined cumulus clouds, and all of a sudden they start spraying. If you time lapse it or you just watch it, the spray will intermix with the clouds, and then the clouds will lose their definition, and they'll just spread out and become a gray slurry, and they're no longer. So now it's a spiritual. I look at that as a spiritual war. That this spraying is coming from evil and spraying into these clouds and trying to kill or manipulate and it is doing that to the clouds. So if these clouds have intelligence, that this is a spiritual war, and you watch it, it brings tears to your eyes.
Yeah.
It's I've done podcasts where these clouds just turn into a slurry. So it's fascinating to me. There's something way more than we're being told going on up there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and Robbie, I found that reference. It's 1 Enoch chapter 41. 1 Enoch 41, verse 1. It talks about the secrets of the heavens, and then in verse 3 of Enoch, this is 1 Enoch, chapter 41, verse 3, it says, "My eyes saw the secrets of the lightning, of the thunder, the secrets of the winds, how they are divided to blow over the earth, the secrets of the clouds and dew, and there I saw from whence they proceeded, and where they saturate the dusty earth." And so it talks about then it talks about the chambers of the sun and the moon and how they proceed. So yeah, I mean, it definitely mentions those
and
types
dew,
of
clouds
things.
and dew.
And
Is it?
dew,
And
yeah.
dew. Oh, interesting. There's water again, though, right?
Yeah.
Interesting that David's bringing this up. Interesting.
And and I've seen what David was describing, the dissipation. I see that, after the spraying. I mean, Toledo, Ohio it gets sprayed almost constantly. I mean, it's rarely where I don't see the streaks from the chemtrails. And usually when I don't see them, you can still, if you look towards the horizon and maybe 10, 15 degrees above that, you can see that grayish white haze. So this is just my theory, that whenever you don't see spraying, it's because they have a good saturation in the air, and it might be 6 hours, it might be 12 hours, it might be a day and a half, but eventually those are going to come back. Every time someone says, "Oh, I haven't seen them for a whole day,"
Right.
Usually they're back, right? I mean, is that what you've experienced, David?
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. So watch when you do get a cumulus day, and then they inevitably start spraying. Watch the
Yes.
interaction between the spray and the clouds, and think about what we're talking about tonight, and you'll feel it in your heart. You'll know that this is way bigger than most people are ready to accept.
Well, one interesting thing too, because I mean, Ephesians talks about that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, right? But by principalities. Where, Nate?
Yeah, in the heavens, in the heavenly realms, and
yes,
high places.
High places. High places.
Yeah, Ephesians 6. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Robbie, so we have the heavens above us, which are right right above us. I believe, is below the firmament.
There's heavens and there's heaven. So there's exactly correct.
Okay. All right. So we have these layers, and so the Great Borehole only got down just short of 8 miles. We hit an impenetrable barrier. That's a denser level below us. I mean, one might call that hell. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people
it seems like there's another layer below us.
Sure. Yeah. When you think about it, I mean, 8 miles is nothing, and it's just so absurd that, the textbooks that we had when we were kids and even today are showing like the, gobstopper candy earth, with the quarter of it cut out, and you can see all the layers of the crust and the mantle and the core and all this stuff, and some of this is like molten nickel, and, it's absurd. But the deepest holes. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, we had the little delay.
Yeah,
when they were digging the Great Borehole, they were using ground penetrating radar technology to see what was going to come, and they were wrong every step of the way. Every time they thought they were going to, all right, there's no more water, and then they hit water, and then they were wrong every step of the way. But we know what's between the 8 miles and the center of the earth.
I mean, that would be like, okay, I'm going to go out in my yard and I'm going to dig a 6 foot deep trench. But, the first step is I'm just going to wave my hand over the top and blow a little dust around. That's about all that 8 miles did, was blow a little dust around. I mean, it's you're correct. It's so absurd that they say, well, we know all of this stuff, blah, 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 ridiculous.
I love Job when it actually says that it cannot be measured. I love when he's talking to Job. He's like, who can measure the breadth of the earth? right? And yet we're saying we can weigh it. We know exactly how, we know all the dimensions. Heck, we know the weight of Pluto. We know the weight of, it's just ridiculous when all of a sudden he's like literally saying, you guys do not even know what the earth rests on, right? He says, who have seen the pillars, right? These type of things. I love where he's just kind of, I don't know, in a way talking to Job. And he's like, he's laughing. He's like, who are you?
He's laughing like, where were you? You know, one of the phrases you see and repeatedly in Job is, where were you when I did this, when I created that, when, you know.
And the funny thing too is, and this is the way I look at it, is we cannot get high enough to see the entire thing, nor will we ever. The entire lie about seeing the entire globe, again, that's an entire lie. We know that. But here's the reality. I don't think we could ever get high enough to see the entire thing in its entirety. We're not able to do it, nor is any civilization.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, not in the human flesh. That's for certain.
No, that's what I mean. Yeah.
And physically, I mean, I don't think we can see far enough to see the whole thing.
Good point.
It's because
Good point. Yeah.
the atmosphere.
If you were Superman, my point is, if you were Superman and you could see through all the atmospheric, all I'm saying is you had like perfect, Superman vision. The point is you can't get high enough. Like, again, I don't know how high the firmament is, but it's not that high.
73 miles.
73 miles. You've measured it, last night.
There you go.
Yeah. So David's got it down. You can quote him on it. What did you say? 73 miles?
73.
73.
Well, you can see, some of these government documents and stuff that I can't remember who posted it today on Facebook. It might have been Joe Garcia, but he had posted something on there and it talked about, some government documents that at a certain latitude and, this, that, and the other, that there was the dome was like a certain, amount of.
They're talking about the Encyclopedia Americana, where it talked about in Antarctica at a certain latitude, it was at 13,000 feet.
I got a question, David. Like, in the last year, how many significant major flat earthers believe in the infinite plane theory? Like, to me, it seemed like, at the beginning, that was like the big thing. There was the two big, competing views. And now it seems like there's very few people that believe in infinite plane. Is it just me, or have you noticed the shift?
No, there's definitely more people realizing that we live in an enclosed system. What's beyond that? We don't know. And I really haven't even thought about it much. Could there be more out there? Yeah.
No, we're not talking about could there be more. We're talking infinite. It goes on forever. I mean, to me, when I heard this theory, I was like, that's insane. First of all, in my understanding, the only thing that's infinite is God himself. The idea that men would say that any creation would be the same, qualities as the creator is crazy to me, like equal. You know what I mean? He's the only one that's infinite.
I do the Flat Earth podcast with my host, Matt Long, and he's on the biblical side.
He's great.
And he leads his argument with the Bible.
Sure.
And I lead
with science.
With not the Bible. Right, with science.
Correct.
But then I say, but it says it in the Bible. And so now when I come across something new and I think about something, my mind goes, what does the Bible say? It's like I'm looking for the science, but I'm curious right away what the Bible says about it. Like when we're talking about the Unveiling a Titan series,
sure.
What does the Bible say about that?
There's giants. I'll tell you that much.
Well, so the old story that the Earth, the flat Earth story, the Earth is on the top of a turtle, it's on the back of a hippo, on top of an elephant.
Yeah.
Literally, after watching this darn series, I have to consider that something to that story. There's some truth to that story.
Wow.
Yeah, interesting.
I'm not saying. Listen,
and somebody mentioned in the chat too, David. I think what you were talking about. They said that the Go Fast rocket, the one that we all watched it and it kind of just like stopped and bloop. They said it was reached an altitude of like 72, roughly 72 miles. So at least
that's why I came up.
This is my thinking. If we live, and I do believe we do, if we live in that enclosed dome creation. If you think about the shape of a dome, I believe that if you're, closer to what we would call the center of the flat Earth, meaning the middle part, like higher. If you're, if you're looking at a pizza and you cut out, the inner 20 or 30%, 40% of that pizza, obviously the dome would be higher. So I think it probably depends,
where
you are. But
right.
Then of course with Admiral Byrd and, the strong suspicion that, there were planes crashing into it.
I just thought of something. Sorry to interject. I thought of something. Why doesn't someone go to the interior of Antarctica and send a rocket up? Because if it goes thunk after like 20 miles, right? That whole theory is totally proven. If we get the same thunk at 20 miles, right?
Talk to Taboo Conspiracy, and he'll tell you can't go.
No,
They're
my,
not
my
gonna let
I know
you.
you. I'm not. I said the interior. Okay, say you take a cruise and you smuggle. I don't know how big those rockets are. That rocket was pretty big, but all I'm saying is there must be a certain way not to go to Antarctica where you can't go.
Come on, Robbie. I actually
launch it from the ship itself.
We have friends that are on their way to Antarctica right now.
I'm talking about before you get shot. I'm talking about before you get shot, David.
Robbie, I heard that someone told me that they went on a cruise to Antarctica and only 10 people could get off the ship at one time.
Oh my goodness!
You would never let more than 10 people off at a time.
Well, yeah, the penguins. You gotta protect those penguins. They don't like a lot of people. They don't like crowds. Penguins are like an anxiety, you know, when there's lots of crowds, you know, of people. So they condense it about 10 at a time, and penguins are cool with that. That's what I
want to
heard.
hear just switching topics a little bit.
Sure.
A fun flat Earth story.
I would love to. So
I had to get my son a new phone for his phone was dying. So we got him a new phone at the Apple store, and we brought both phones home. We did the swap and everything, and then he went back to Utah, and so I needed to go bring the old phone back because they'll buy it from me. So I went to a different Apple store. I go to my town, but I was in another town, and I went into another Apple store, and place is jamming, you know, Christmas time and the holiday season. And this was just the other day. And so I bring it in. I was like, hey, I want to swap the phone. He goes, oh, what's wrong with the phone? And the guy, I'm like, no, nothing's wrong. I go, we've already done it. I go, this is the old one I'm trading in. He goes, well, I hope you backed it up. I'm like, it's all backed up. It's restored to normal. And he's like, okay. He goes, do you have the other phone? I'm like, no, my son has the phone. I was told they don't need it. Here's the receipt. He's like, I think I could do that. The guy's acting a little weird. And I'm like, and he goes, what's your name? And I go, David Weiss. And he goes, I knew it. I knew it.
Nice.
Whips out his phone, shows me the app. And he's
nice.
like, yo.
Perfect segue.
He's flipping out.
That's so cool.
And he told me that there was one other employee in the store that he's half.
So this is at the Apple store.
This is at the Apple store.
Nice. I saw the one day that you took the photo where you actually changed all their phones to
that was
the wallpaper.
My hometown.
That was epic, man.
That was a different story. Yeah.
I know. You have creative ways to do it. But anyways, that's perfect segue because we want to make sure that we talk about your app. I mean, that you've developed an incredible resource, not just for flat earthers in explaining flat Earth, but I think it helps to give people a good understanding of what flat earthers believe, not what we don't.
Yeah, Robbie, I came up with the idea before the conference was it the conference in Dallas? That's where I premiered it.
Yeah,
right?
we premiered it. We premiered it. No, Denver, not Dallas. Denver.
Denver.
Yeah,
Denver.
It was Denver.
Yeah, we did the launch announcement.
I meant Denver.
I remember Rick holding it up. He's like, "Download it now. It's available in the App Store." Right? That was hilarious.
It was great, and since then it's really changed. It's become so much more, and with the YouTube censorship.
What's the name of the app? Because I forget the name of it. You might have to say it.
It's the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app.
Drives me crazy. It drives me crazy, and I know other people. We've had talks behind your back, just to let you know.
No, I've had talks behind your back. It's the worst name ever, and I make fun of like some people's YouTube channel names because they're horrible. The app name is worse, but the good thing is it's so popular that if you just type in Flat Earth, it's the #1 hit.
It's #1 hit. Yeah.
Nice.
You don't even have to type that in anymore, or just Flat Earth Clock or Flat Earth Sun and Moon.
You know, there were at the time I named it. There was like 10 other Flat Earth clocks called the Flat Earth Clock. So I didn't want. I needed to call it something that would identify it better. But it's the #1 Flat Earth.
Explain what it does. Explain what it does for people that really think this topic is nuts, or some people that are already 100% sold.
So it shows you a model of the sun. It shows you how the sun is attached to the hour hand, and it laps the moon every 28 days. It shows how the stars lap the sun every 365 days. It shows how the sun travels inward to the Tropic of Capricorn in June, and then outward 6 months later to the Tropic of Cancer on the inside, Tropic of Capricorn on the outside. So that creates the seasons. It shows you where the sun is. Wherever you see the sun, it's noon. Like right now, I'm looking at the app. It's noon on the west coast of Australia. So it shows you where the moon is. It
Pretty soon, though, you're not going to be able to do interviews anymore. You're not going to be able to do interviews anymore because it answers all the questions for you.
Well, you know what? When we get to that,
you're working yourself out of a job.
The pop-ups, the facts that pop up on my phone that are from the app. I love that.
Yeah, the notification. So I have the featured video of the day, and so there's a little thumbnail, and every day I put on another video. Short ones during the week, I try to, longer ones on the weekends. And I send a push notification. If you allow a push notification come to your phone, and it basically just gives you a little like, hey, this is what today's video is about. And it encourages people to watch it. And so I give people the challenge. I say, listen, if you think flat Earth is stupid, or if you think flat Earth is great, it's a great tool to when you're talking to people and you're explaining flat Earth and they're listening. You break out the app and you show them, and everyone goes, "Oh, that's interesting."
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true.
But I tell people, if you're not a flat earther, get the app.
Yeah.
Watch the video every day for 2 weeks, and you will know at the end of that 2 weeks or before that we don't live on a spinning ball. And I get messages, countless messages, people saying, "I think you're an idiot. I thought you were an idiot. I got the app. I decided not to wait for every day. I hit the archive button, which is right next to the video. I watched everything in 2 days. Oh my God, the Earth is flat. What do I do? My family thinks I'm crazy."
I think you should have a way of actually testing that theory, though, and have something built in that you're so confident in that if someone actually does it and you track that they watch every video for 2 weeks, that if they're not a flat earther, they're not completely intrigued, their money back. It's like a 14-day money back guarantee. I mean, that's how confident you are.
I actually would do that.
I know you would,
because I would do that.
I know you would.
I would, but
I don't know if it's possible. I don't think Apple allows that.
And I've looked at apps out there. There's subscriptions, there's in-app purchases. I've made mine. It's $2.99, one-time fee.
Yeah.
You get, I'm your slave every single day from there on. To give you that
it is
video.
True. It is true. You work hard at putting out that new video. I mean, David actually puts out a brand new video. He hand selects each video each day. And trust me, all the videos, there's a lot of good videos out there. I mean, that must be almost time consuming, narrowing it down and going, which one do I do today? Which one do I mean, that's adding a lot of stress into your life.
It does and it doesn't. It's like, I've watched some videos. So sometimes I have a backlog of a dozen videos, and I'm trying to get them on, but then new videos are coming. Like, I got to put this one out. I love putting up old videos. There's so many old videos that are fantastic.
Yes.
So there's really no shortage. The thing is, like, if you search flat Earth on YouTube, you get garbage. If somebody says, "Hey, how does circumnavigation work?" and a flat earther sends them circumnavigation for dummies, which is a short video I have, they'll be like, "Oh," and then the next video that come up will be a propaganda video, or something.
I'm going to throw it out there, but I think sometime in the future you need to have just a certain area just for people, if they're interested in what the Bible has to say, click on it and give them a couple resources. Anyways, just an idea I'm throwing out there, but there's a lot of people that would be intrigued.
I am working on another, so we have on the app, there's the FAQ page. It pulls up 21 buttons that have the top 21 answers, mostly based off of ODD's video, the 21 questions.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then that pulls up a playlist that you can go through that'll answer your questions. And so for the people that saying YouTube isn't, an information source, no, it's not. YouTube is a hosting platform where there's everything there, and you can use your discernment. Correct. I've narrowed it down to give you the researched information that you want. So just that page alone will convert anybody into a flat earther, because it answers all of the same old tired questions that I answer on every single interview I do.
How does this have anything to do with the Bible?
So I'm adding another page where there's going to be different types of questions.
Sure.
And one of them will be, here's biblical. Here's the biblical stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm working on that. That'll be.
It's only been like the entire time since your app. Remember we were talking about doing a biblical section on the Flat Earth podcast. I'm like, I'll get you a list, right? I still have yet to get you a list of the good videos.
I have a biblical playlist.
I know you.
Yeah, you haven't given me that list. Right?
I know, because I said a couple that you have to include.
It's completely your fault. So
it is.
You are people from God.
It is. It absolutely is. I was just so busy, but now I have no excuse because I'm not doing conferences anymore, and I'm kind of taking a seat back a little bit. So I'm going to get you that list finally. But I think that's great. again, I don't think it's forcing it down people's throats or anything like that. Again, just having that option there, because there's a tremendous amount of people that are intrigued.
Yes.
Like you said, they wake up, they're like, okay, there's a creator. I want to see what the creation is being told, the creation account, all these type of things. And then hearing it from a biblical point of view. So I think it's a great idea to have that option for people.
Right.
Yeah, really.
So here's another thing, and somebody just saw it in chat. A lot of people like, I've got a great video for the app. If you have a great video for the app, send it to me. But send it to me. You send it to me in an email with the link, a short description, and a screenshot.
I got an idea. You build. I know you have software developers. This would be super easy. Develop a system where people can kind of submit it, and the community votes things to the top or whatever. All I'm saying, it will make your job really easy. If you have an area where people can submit stuff constantly, it will make your job easier. And plus, people can upvote and downvote videos, and then you can see the top 10 videos. It'll be easy to kind of do that.
This is why the elite try to keep us slaves. I'm the dictator right now, and so I don't need anyone to upvote or downvote stuff. It's
I'm just saying to submit it easier. Okay, then a program to submit it easier.
Robbie.
What I meant is to have a program to submit to you easier than just sending emails to you. You get how many emails a day? Yeah. I mean, that's going to make your life even busier. I mean, at some point, you're going to cap out. I remember talking to Mark Sargent, and I was sitting there. This was it was in Canada, and he's typing. Well, what are you doing? He's like, I'm answering emails. I'm like, do you answer every single email? He goes, I try to, right? And I remember all of a sudden in Dallas, he was sitting there again, and I'm like, dude, one day you're not going to be able to do that anymore. You're going to have to probably get someone. He goes, I know, but I'm going to keep doing it until I get there. So you must be getting up to that point where you're getting so many emails.
I do have some people that help me go through some emails sometimes.
That's good.
But here's just a note for somebody. If you have something to tell me, you got to keep it short. If you send me a full 2-3 pages, I just delete it. I don't even read it. And it's probably something that's awesome and that I wish I saw.
I reply to all my emails and I say, talk to David Weiss. I just give him your email and I just say, talk to him on every one of my emails. So I'd say half your emails that are coming.
Like just today, somebody, in a comment said, hey, I'm looking for information on this. I don't understand how we can do XYZ. And I had the perfect video. I sent them the playlist to the video. And they replied back, oh, wow, now I get it. Thanks. And so that right there is worth going through it to me. I love responding to people that are asking real questions. If you're a flat earther, I'm probably not going to respond to you as fast as I will to somebody asking a legitimate question.
Yeah.
So,
I call you. It takes you about 2 weeks to get back to me. I understand. David.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing is the video has to be a good video. It has to, it has to be a good video. It has to have a good readable thumbnail, because on the app, it's a small little box that you're looking at. And I want people to be able to read it. Otherwise, because if I put one on without a good thumbnail, the amount of clicks I get is a tenth of what people see it. Like they'll look at it and they'll click it. I could see how many people the messages are going to.
Yeah.
Nice. It's amazing. It's becoming a super powerful tool, and
it really
especially
is.
with the censorship that's going on. I try to only send one message a day, but if something like really amazing is happening, I'll do another push notification. Again, people, you can turn off push notifications for any app.
Yeah.
You write it in your settings. And I would think that anyone that's a flat earther that has this app, they kind of like those push notifications. I love.
Yeah. Well, it's good because it does the thinking for you. You're like, it's going to be good, right? Because if it's bad, you know who to blame.
I do it first thing in the morning or late at night, and I schedule the push notification for I try to do it like around 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so I'll be doing my day, and all of a sudden the thing will pop up on my phone, and I'll be like, oh, cool, and I'm like, I wrote that,
Nice.
I get it. I'm like, it better be good.
I wrote it.
Yeah, I'm like, I'll get the notification. I'll be like, this better be good, or I'm calling David, right? And David, how many times I've called you on a bad video. I've never called you. Never called you. So you're doing a great job. No, we appreciate it. Hey, real quick before we end the show, please mention all of your links where people can contact you, information. I want to make sure we get out that information before we come to a close.
So the main spot to get me is the FlatEarthPodcast.com. Also, our Facebook page, the Flat Earth Podcast. Don't on the Flat Earth Podcast Facebook page. It's filled with bots and trolls making horrible comments. My advice to you is don't even comment there, because I have so many filters on there that your comment will probably get hidden, and then I'll just ban you for life. All right, so it's just a place to look at things. The FlatEarthPodcast.com. That's where we have lots of videos there, lots of resources. You can leave us a speak pipe for the podcast there. StopLookThink.com. A lot of people have been asking about that. That's another information source with other things than Flat Earth, all the other deceptions in the world that have been censored on YouTube. That is down. We had a massive DOS attack, and we are moving the site, in the process of moving it. And you're going to have to, we did it with the Flat Earth Podcast. To view that site, you have to set up an account. It's free, just an email address, a password, and verify your account. That way, if we have another attack, we could, people start downloading massive files, we can automatically block them because because you have to have an account to do it. So that's it. It's not we're not going to spam you. We're not going to email you. We're not going to do anything. If you have a problem with that, just make a fake email address, a throwaway email address, do it and log in, and then you're all set. So that'll be up.
Let's not forget your YouTube as well. Let's not forget your YouTube channel.
And the YouTube channel is DITRH, which I do lots of short videos that help wake people up, under 5 minutes usually. 5 minutes is kind of long for me. DITRH, the initials for Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. And I think that's it. Is that everything, Robbie? And Twitter, I don't read Twitter a lot, but it's the FE Podcast. And that's where you can get some information, but I don't respond on Twitter because it's also filled with a lot of nasty trolls.
Well, we really appreciate, everything you do with, in the Flat Earth community. You've been a staple for such a long time, doing so much behind the scenes. Now you're doing so much even, right in front. I know you're the type of person that really doesn't like the spotlight, but unfortunately that path for you, like we were talking about in the first hour, it seems like your path is to actually be in the front and to get this message to a wider audience, which you've done a tremendous job in, the last year. It's just been incredible. Like the InfoWars, Owen Benjamin. I mean, a lot of these things are based on you initiating them. Now, whether there's a prodding or a calling that you feel, the fact is, when you kind of go that direction, it happens. And again, these are huge things that are happening. I mean, the entire thing with Owen Benjamin, I mean, how many people is he? It's like that ripple effect. I always tell people, I say, listen, that one person you're talking to, it's not about even numbers. It's not about quantity. It's about quality. And sometimes, we will not understand the ripple effect until, we get to heaven.
Mark turned me on to Owen when he was taking down NASA, and I got him, helped him convert over to Flat Earth. And now all of his followers, I'd say the vast majority of them know we don't live on a ball.
I know. It's unbelievable. And Owen, even talking with Owen, and again, he kind of knew, but he knew kind of the path to take with his audience. Not that he was lying, but it made no sense for him just to come right out. He was kind of walking that journey with people. You know what I mean? Because, we were talking about David. We're like, he's a flat earther. We already know that, right? But anyways.
He says that he knows it's not a spinning ball, and that's all we need.
That's
true.
You know
what? That's all I really know, because you know what? Maybe there's something other than flat that we just don't have the words for.
Sure, that's what I meant.
It's not a spinning ball.
We're not a spinning ball flying through space. That's the one thing that we all have that commonality on. We have all these differences, but really we're on the same team fighting against, scientism, Satanism, all these type of things that are trying to destroy God in people's minds by giving them this evolutionary Big Bang cosmology that's really doing a incredibly horrifying job on young minds, and especially it starts at a very young age. David, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an awesome show. Flew by like crazy. David. Make sure that you subscribe to him, check out his information.
Robbie, Nate, thanks.
It's been awesome. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. We're off the air.
That was fast.
Awesome. Yeah, dude. The chat was hopping, dude. The chat was hopping. Yeah, we had 200 plus.